Hello, this is Christian Zachary, and I'm here to present you about the iconic, everyone knows, France. France is located next to Africa and on the tip of Europe. Um, and the population of France is not densely populated, but it's around 66 million people. And the capital of Paris, and a lot of movies of different stuffs in culture. The capital is Paris. The GDP is about 3.3 trillion USD and was one of the largest amounts of GDP across the globe. The cost of living is around $40,000 a year, and France is known for being the city of light, and Paris is, as we all know, is the center of a lot of culture, art, and food, and has so much impacts on culture around the world. History. After the fall of the Roman Empire, the land was conquered by the Germanic Franks. If you all know, that's where the Rome conquered previously. But after that, then Louis XIV reigned as king of France for 1643 to 1715, during which France became Europe's most powerful monarchy. In 1789, the French Revolution puts up into the monarchy, leading to the ambitious Napoleon's empire. After Napoleon's fall, France went through a lot of change in its government. This is a time of enlightenment. Before Napoleon rose, it was a period of enlightenment, but it was actually very, very violent. And Napoleon actually did bring a lot of different cultural things that allowed France to become that once prosperous nation. And after Napoleon's fall, it still became very strong. World War II contributed to the rise of Charles de Gaulle, who created the Fifth Republic and France's current government today. Cost comparisons: renting versus buying. Renting an average is a $659 a month for a one-bedroom apartment in the city. Buying depends on the region. Paris averages $9,000 per square meter. Southern, where it's warmer, and coastal cities also remain the most expensive. With medium houses, prices for course du sud toppings is the list of $459,000. On the more affordable end, Charouk has a median house price of $130,000. Rent or buy. So the French property market faces a bunch of different challenges, including the rising interest rates, more difficulty for buyers to actually secure credits. And the building inflation, on the other hand, France has always been a renter friendly. However, the French property market's interest rate is still very competitive compared to the other countries. So investing in real estate can yield a significant profits down the road. So you see a lot of celebrities buying different spots in France because of this, because it's such an iconic place. And also that down the road, these things can be sold for very high prices. Housing styles. Home styles in France varies largely by region. They can generally be divided into two categories: the more universal styles and the exclusive French styles. The former includes apartments and townhouses, while the later sees the examples of maisons de maîtres and landaudes. So pretty much that old style of French back in the 1800s, you see that style still in France, in Paris. So you can go either or. Gardens and outdoor space are highly emphasized in French family homes. Hedges are often erected to preserve privacy. Housing styles. Child, you see that? That's very classic French, 1800s. You know, you have that culture still embedded so much in the culture, and you still see it as a popular way to style your house. Okay, so, and this is how, you know, the housing styles of apartments, very similar. And see this as well. Very elegant, very beautiful, symmetric, and this is, again, they still do this today. This is a little bit more modern, but still kind of, you know, keeps that 1800s look. So, building materials. Most homes in France use traditional concrete block construction methods, including newer skills such as cast in place and precast concrete. Bricks are used commonly too. France has an abundance of natural resources such as clay and limestone. Clay is to make some cement and major components of concrete. The types of roofs range from steady pitched roofs covered with slate tiles in the northwest region of the country to zinc roofing in the mansland roof style in the north central region, such as Paris. Housing in France versus housing in the U.S. We all know how it is in the U.S. It's not very easy, but we'll see the differences here. So, similarity in current trends, both are showing signs of relief after uncertainty in years. France, after several years of several declines, the French housing market is gradually recovering. U.S., the demand is slowing, but recent increases in inventory is boosting sales modestly. So there is kind of a boost, but it's hard to see when you're living here. I know. Difference. So heavy government interventions such as caps on how many can rent can increase. Prices move slowly without big drops. U.S. market is market driven, so no rent controls or caps. Housing volatility. Well, yeah, we're living in America, so you don't see those things. It's based on what the market is saying. If the market's up, you know, it will be up. So just interesting to see that. So different tenant rights. France implements rules that protect tenants' rights. This includes 3-year leases require long periods of notice before a landlord can evict a tenant. Use strict rent caps. The U.S. has no rent caps or minimum lease duration. Overall, Americans protects its landlords. Very interesting with the culture of our country of how that is, and very interesting to see that the employees, the working class, is actually has more rights in France. Because that's very interesting. So the different environment laws, and you know, in our country, there is a lot of issues with, climate control and climate change, and people are not really on board, and you have a party that's not very on board with that, and it shows up. It definitely shows up where our interests are as an American people. So, France actually has a central system mandating environmentally responsible buildings by implementing carbon caps. So carbon causes a lot of pollution, and they put caps on that so it doesn't affect the environment. While the U.S. housing system is largely decentralized, operating on a more encouraging and voluntary base, there is no carbon caps for buildings. Absolutely not. Which is not surprising. Housing laws and government intervention. Buying is affordable but tightly regulated, imposing a strict debt caps max 35% of income. Centralized rent control plus rent subsidies for millions of tenants are very protected under these laws. New law imposing difficulty for short-term rentals to persist in Paris. Heavy taxes on Airbnb styles. Strict housing regulations lead to housing price inflation in France. Housing affordability issue is on the rise. Vacant dwellings. The difficulties to evict unreasonable tenants, due largely to the multiple layers of the protection for tenants in France, lead to landlords choosing to leave their property unoccupied. Housing shortages. Strict environmental rules named RE 2020 and zoning restrictions raise construction costs and hard to get approvals. Vacation rentals like Airbnb also reduces available long-term rental units. So in France, because of these rules, they are more likely to try to do Airbnb opposed to long-term rental contracts. So they're able to at least make some type of profit. So what surprises me and what I've learned is that this country is very liberating. It's very liberating, but it has this issue of housing and regulations. It's very interesting to see the contrast that on one end they are environmental friendly, but there's a lot of issues in the housing situation. And what I've learned is also that the construction of a house in France these days is very, very hard to come by. And this further leads to housing price and also housing shortages, because it's so expensive to build a house. No one is able to, afford that. And then you have added on that the renters rules and laws, it's even harder to maintain it. It's a long road for France to tackle these issues and find a way to provide residents affordable housing. So that is the end of my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it.